Tonight.
You've been a friend for a long time, a personal friend, and you know my commitment to Israel is ironclad.
As Israel's president visits Washington lawmakers, how the Biden administration is continuing to push for Middle East peace. Plus, the transition to the second Trump administration.
We are tired of living in a country that is no longer dreaming big, but that is going to change.
What names are on the list and what roles will they fill? And
there are all these silos that operate within the state, whether it's within government or the faith community.
How Arkansas is working to unite state workers and faith workers to bring help to the most vulnerable people among them. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation.
President Biden meets with his Israeli counterpart while the United Nations raises questions about the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm John Jessup.
And from the CBN studio in Washington, D.C., I'm Jenna Browder. With high tensions in the Middle East, the United States is stepping up negotiations with Israel, once again pushing for a ceasefire to bring hostages home, possibly ending the war.
Today, Israeli President Isaac Herzog met with President Biden at the White House. CBN Washington correspondent Michelle London joins us now for more. Michelle, how was their meeting?
Well, John, during their Oval Office meeting, President Herzog thanked President Biden for his support while in office, before stressing the importance of hostages and the threat of Iran.
First and foremost, we have to get the hostages back home. I agree. And it all starts in Tehran. Mr. President, this has to be a major objective all throughout your term and the next term of the next president, because we have to make sure that they cannot fulfill their evil intentions.
President Biden faces a real deadline in his push for a ceasefire in both Gaza and Lebanon. He's working to strike a deal before President-elect Donald Trump takes over in January. Today's meeting also happening amid international criticism of Israel still failing to provide adequate humanitarian aid to Gaza. Last month, the Biden administration gave Israel a 30-day window to maintain a surge of food and emergency aid into the territory, warning that failure to comply could lead the U.S. to restrict military aid to Israel as the deadline hit today. The administration stated Israel made enough progress that arms transfers would not be limited. A letter signed by several international aid agencies, however, says Israel has failed to address these concerns and that the situation is an even worse situation than a month ago. Israel's foreign minister responding, saying the issue would be solved.
Michelle, as for the new administration, President-elect Trump making the announcement today, he's nominated Mike Huckabee to serve as the U.S. ambassador to Israel. Why is he the strong choice for the role?
Well, President-elect Trump called the former Governor Huckabee highly respected and a great public servant. He added in his statement that Huckabee loves Israel and will work tirelessly to bring about peace in the Middle East. Prime Minister Netanyahu says he's spoken with Trump 3 times since the election this week, and he talked about those conversations, saying he and Trump see eye to eye on the Iranian threat in all aspects and on the dangers they reflect. Jenna.
All right, Washington correspondent Michelle London. Thank you so much, Michelle. Well, a clearer picture tonight of the team that will implement Trump's second-term agenda. Florida Senator Marco Rubio, who challenged Trump in the 2016 White House primary, is gearing up to be America's top diplomat serving as Secretary of State. Trump also appears to have tapped South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem to lead the Department of Homeland Security, a key role in carrying out his pledge to crack down on illegal immigration, and Florida Congressman Mike Walz as his national security advisor. As previously reported, he's already selected Elise Stefanik as the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, Tom Homan as his border czar, Lee Zeldin as administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency, Stephen Miller to serve as White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy, and Susie Wiles as his White House Chief of Staff. He has yet to name who will fill key positions like the U.S. Attorney General, CIA Director, and Secretary of Defense, key roles the New York Times says President Trump is focusing on. No word, though, on whether Robert Kennedy Jr. or Elon Musk will serve in a Trump cabinet.
Well, on Capitol Hill, it's looking more official by the moment, Republicans will keep control of the House, giving President Trump a trifecta, with the party set to control the White House and both chambers of Congress come January. The magic number in the House is 218. That's how many House seats are needed for a majority. But a few races are still being counted, so we don't quite yet have the final tally. Whatever it ends up being, it's going to be a slim majority for Republicans, making a difficult job for House Speaker Mike Johnson. Today, he spoke to reporters, announcing President-elect Trump will be on Capitol Hill tomorrow morning.
I didn't intend to break this as news this morning, but since I said it, I invited President Trump is going to meet with President Biden at the White House. And so it was suggested, in fact, I think he said it first before I did, but that he wanted to come and visit with House Republicans. So we're working out the details of him gathering with us potentially tomorrow morning before he goes to the White House.
Meanwhile, on the Senate side, Republicans will hold a majority with 53 seats, Democrats in the minority with 47 seats. The last race to come in, Arizona, where Democrat Ruben Gallego has defeated Republican Kari Lake. The new Congress will be sworn in on January 3rd.
And with that, let's bring in Tony Perkins. He's the president of the Family Research Council and joins us now. Tony, so with this likely Oval Office, Senate, House trifecta, what do you think should be the top priority for the GOP come January?
Well, John, I think it's keeping their promises. That is, getting our economy moving forward, cutting government spending, and making the world safe again. I mean, that was a very decisive choice by the American people. They had a choice before them, whether it was strength versus weakness, growth versus continued decline, or life versus death. I mean, when you look at what Kamala Harris was campaigning on about expanding abortion until birth, it's very interesting that she received less percentage of the women vote than Joe Biden did in 2020. That tells me that women in America are more concerned about feeding their children than aborting them.
Tony, so we're hearing names, the administration coming together, Marco Rubio for Secretary of State, Kristi Noem, Homeland Security. What do you make of the picks President-elect Trump is making so far?
Well, right now, I'm pretty encouraged by what I see. I think Marco Rubio has a track record of being an advocate for religious freedom. And if you'll recall back during the first Trump administration when Mike Pompeo was Secretary of State, who did a great job, religious freedom wasn't top priority versus exporting abortion and the LGBTQ agenda. So encouraged by that. I think Kristi Noem will do a good job at Homeland Security. Looking to see who will be at the Department of Defense. That was a department that the president never got a handle on in his first term. And of course, as you mentioned a moment ago, the Attorney General is going to be a key pick. I think there's some really good people that are in the mix for that. And very excited about the announcement of Mike Huckabee being selected as ambassador to Israel.
As you just alluded, the U.S. Attorney General is a big pick. The New York Times reporting that this is something that Trump is focusing on. What qualities do you think are needed to effectively lead the DOJ at this time in American history?
There's two places, well, actually I would say three, where the deep state is alive and well. It would be at the State Department, it would be at the Department of Defense, and the Department of Justice. So I think you're going to have someone with strong determination that understands justice and what that means and rooting it out. And I've known the previous three attorney generals who have been in there and have attempted to do that. It is a difficult job, but you can see we are much further along in the Trump administration and this incoming administration in these selections. He knows what needs to be done based upon his experience the first time. And so I am very optimistic that he's going to achieve his goals that he laid out for the American people. I think, John and Jenna, this is an opportunity for the church to be praying. I do think we need the president to have great wisdom, to be surrounded by godly counsel, and pray that they would be successful in making America strong and morally whole. I mean, that's the role of the church. The government can't do that, but this is an opportunity to exercise our religious freedoms to begin repairing the moral foundation of this country.
Tony, just a few seconds left, but any guesses on who else Trump might pick for some of these positions?
I have some ideas, but I don't want to. I'm not at liberty to share some of those names. But there's some good picks out there. I am very optimistic by the selection the president is making.
All right.
We respect that. Tony Perkins with the Family Research Council and Washington Watch. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Good to be with you.
Well, a red flag warnings, plural, are blanketing New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut tonight as wildfires burn on both coasts. In the Northeast, the Jennings Creek fire has turned deadly. Police say 18-year-old Daryl Vasquez, a New York State employee, was killed by a falling tree while battling the flames. Out west, firefighters have gained ground on the mountain fire that scorched more than 20,000 acres in Ventura County, California, and destroyed more than 100 homes.
Meet the high-risk missionary defending the helpless against dangerous criminals for the sake of orphans and widows. That story and more next on Faith Nation. Welcome back. As the holiday travel season moves into full gear, a new warning for anyone traveling by plane. Airport staffing shortages may cause big delays.
Our air traffic controllers are overworked and understaffed. The situation's actually gotten worse since I first began pressing the FAA to act last year.
The Federal Aviation Administration had to slow down flights over the weekend in Austin, Texas, due to a lack of staff in the control tower. And as holiday travel picks up, the issue could get worse. Earlier this year, the FAA announced it was short about 3,000 employees. While hiring efforts have increased, many new air traffic controllers won't be fully trained in time for the onslaught of travelers.
Well, the FAA is suspending U.S. flights into Haiti for the next 30 days. It comes after 2 incidents of gunfire hitting planes at the Port-au-Prince airport. On Monday, a Spirit Airlines flight was diverted to the Dominican Republic after being shot at while trying to land. One flight attendant was injured. Separately, a JetBlue flight leaving Haiti for New York was also shot. Spirit and JetBlue canceled their flights into the Caribbean country ahead of the FAA decision. The U.S. Embassy says the shootings were part of gang-led violence that's long been terrorizing the island. The man reportedly at the center of Haiti's chaos is Jimmy Cherizier, also known as Barbecue. He leads a powerful group of gangs that's accused of multiple kidnappings and violence.
CBN's Chuck Holton traveled to Haiti with a military veteran turned missionary to meet Cherizier and hear his story with a goal of securing protection for orphans and missionaries.
Port-au-Prince feels like a war zone. Gangs control the majority of the city and want more. Even so, missionary Victor Marks is still investing in ways to ease the suffering.
The reason I'm here in Haiti doing all this high-risk missionary stuff is a while back we responded to the urgent request of an orphanage that was under imminent threat of attack by many considered the most notorious gang in Haiti, the Moazu 400. It broke my heart to think of the possibilities were if this gang attack to take control over that area.
While the orphanage was saved, a desperate population remains. Some say gang leader Jimmy Barbecue Cherizier is Haiti's most dangerous man. He faces sanctions from the U.S. and the United Nations. Entering his territory uninvited is all but suicidal. Yet when he offered an interview, Marks and his team quickly accepted. Cherizier led us deep into his stronghold, a slum few outsiders dare to enter. Casting himself as a defender of the poor fighting corrupt elites, he dismissed the UN's $600 million peacekeeping mission.
Okay, he said there's no force coming from abroad, whether it's the Kenyans, Jamaicans, Americans, whoever, that are going to change Haiti. Americans have proved that already with intervention.
This is right in the center of one of the neighborhoods in Port-au-Prince that is a no-go zone, even for the police. And you can see the evidence of the gunfights that have happened right here at this sports park in the middle of this neighborhood. But the people that live here say that it's not the gangs that they're afraid of, it's the government.
I talk to people on the street, slums to wealthy, and I go, do you trust the government? They all say no. I mean, without reservation, no. So the government has its existing currently, and how it's been, it doesn't work.
While Cherizier's critics see him as a gangster, he insists he's fighting for Haiti's forgotten people. The real enemy isn't the gang, he says, but the elite families who've kept the nation in poverty for decades.
That's why he, who's led this charge, this movement of the Vivre Ensemble, and Jimmy always says this, unless there's a dialogue, unless Haitians can come sit at the table, you know, he's forced the hand of everybody, the international community, the politicians, oligarchs. They're going to have to sit with them, or nothing's going to change.
Despite the overall portrayal of Cherizier, Mark sees a man on a mission.
He's truly fighting for reformation and some level of better equality, at least of opportunity. And he doesn't make himself out to be a saint, but yet, you know, prayed with him. We got to pray with him. Here he is, hard for vision.
Pray you fill him with your spirit, God. Give him eyes and heart. Increase his capacity for love.
He said the only thing that can take Haiti out of its current crisis is dialogue.
With the arrival of Kenyan troops as potential peacekeepers, many Haitians wonder if this new mission will bring real change or just more of the same. While it's clear what they have isn't working, Mark's managed to come away with a promise.
I'm publicly letting everyone know that I have agreed with Victor Max that no violence against children, orphanages, American missionaries, and any Haitian that help them will be tolerated by Vive Assam.
Marks and others concerned with the situation can only wait and see if that promise is fulfilled.
Up, helping the hungry in a new way. How Arkansas is bringing together faith and government leaders to figure out how to bring aid to those suffering economically. Welcome back. High prices for food and other everyday items have many Americans living paycheck to paycheck. In Arkansas, Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders is turning to the faith community to help.
At the first ever Arkansas Faith Summit, government and faith leaders teamed up to look for solutions to a number of issues like hunger, foster care, and education. CBN's Paul Petit reports from Little Rock.
Hunger continues to be a national concern, with one Arkansas food bank providing more than 11 million meals each year.
Food insecurity across the nation, 40 million people, more or less, is the last number that I heard. So the problem is way too large for one organization to try and solve.
That's why the Northwest Arkansas Food Bank partners with more than 100 agencies to provide nutritious food to children, the working poor, and senior citizens in their region.
Things like food insecurity are a big reason why kids even enter foster care in the first place.
Helping the needy is the reason more than 200 area faith leaders met here in Little Rock for the first Arkansas Faith Summit.
There are all these silos that operate within the state, whether it's within government or the faith community, the private sector, the public sector. And so bringing all of them together to work in a collaborative spirit to face and tackle some of the big issues happening here in the state so that we can talk about and focus on some of these big issues.
Flanked by her father, former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee, they spoke candidly about their belief that faith is the force behind tackling issues such as food insecurity, along with foster care, social media concerns, and education freedom.
These faith groups are the driving force behind all sorts of charity.
I hope this is something that we do every year in Arkansas.
Stephanie Nichols shared how school choice is vital to education and how the state's LEARNS Act provides funding for parents of eligible students who choose private schools or homeschooling.
One of the things that I encouraged attendees to do, for example, my kids go to a homeschool co-op that meets in a church. If churches will open their facilities for educational purposes, then we have more kids who can be educated in biblical worldviews.
It's also important to spread the word that help is available. So Governor Sanders recently launched the Arkansas Faith-Based Initiative website. It allows any person or organization to go online and connect with others engaging their communities in a variety of areas.
A lot of these entities are already doing some of this work, but bringing them together, working together, I think will allow us to have a much bigger impact and really move our state to the top and be a great blueprint for other states around the country to follow.
While Florida and Tennessee are also promoting faith-based initiatives, Governor Sanders believes a statewide networking event like the Arkansas Faith Summit is the first of its kind.
I certainly would encourage other governors to take on and really look at and see if it's something that could work in their home states as well.
The governor told attendees at the Arkansas Faith Summit that she's not trying to turn the Capitol dome into a steeple, but she did encourage them to live out their faith. And a big part of that is working together to help others.
I think when your faith is authentic, you don't take it off when you step into whatever job it may be.
A portion of the summit took a closer look at the facts regarding a separation between church and state and how Christians can be bolder in their faith without fear of crossing a line.
I hope that we see a lot more creativity in the body of Christ and innovation as we go forward, because I believe that we all have something to bring to the table in that approach.
Anytime you have this many pastors and faith leaders in one room, naturally everybody's coming with their own thoughts, their opinions, their perspectives, but I'm really appreciative that we can gather under one banner with one purpose to say we believe that the intersection of faith and government matters, and it's important, and we believe that there's a greater purpose and a greater call for our state, and we believe that the church should be a part and should be on the forefront of that.
What results from this event and its outreach remains to be seen, although Kent Eikenberry says if the gospel accounts of Jesus feeding the 5,000 is any indication, the needy here have much to look forward to.
I joke a lot of times that Jesus himself ran the very first food bank. You know, he took 5 loaves of bread and a couple of fish and fed the multitudes. And that's what we're being asked to do every day.
In Little Rock, Paul Petit, CBN News.
Analogy, Jesus in the first food bank. Well, coming up, a temporary home for all kinds of the victims of the Western wildfires. That's next on Faith Nation.
Finally tonight, an animal shelter is providing refuge to animals after a wildfire forced thousands of Californians to evacuate their homes.
And now they're being reunited with their owners thanks to Ventura County Animal Services. People were quick, as you can imagine, to fetch their pets once the evacuation orders in the area were lifted. Dozens of ducks, 80 in total, were reclaimed by their owner and delivered to their home. The shelter provided a temporary home for hundreds of animals, including everything from cats and dogs to horses and sheep. Tigers and bears, oh my.
Yeah, good for them. Those fires are devastating, and now on the East Coast, too.
Yeah, and it's good to have them back home.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
all right, that's going to do it for Faith Nation.
Have a great night.
I was surprised to see the one on the East Coast, just because East Coast.